Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah,
I
man.
hope it
No,
I hope
happy.
it goes well, and I provide great answers, and you won't be embarrassed by sharing this with your viewers as the first interview.
No, I'm really happy to have you here. So yeah, maybe you start with introducing yourself first, so people get to know your background and how you actually started as an artist.
Sure. Well, started as an artist. I guess where's your cutoff point, right? I'd say I started getting into art about 15 years ago. Oh, maybe start with the introduction first. Sorry. My name is Jan Wessbecher. I'm a concept artist from Germany. And I've been doing concept art as a working concept artist for about 6 years. And I started, as I said, about 15 years ago, getting interested into art, taking like art courses back in Germany, and getting into digital art through forums, specifically the Digital Art Forum back in the day.
Which one?
I'm pretty sure it was just called Digital Art Forum.
I think
The person who created it was called Daniel Lieske. Is called, sorry, I don't think he's dead. Daniel Lieske.
okay.
And I think that was his name. Anyways, I was lurking around on that forum and posting stuff from time to time, and getting more and more into digital art. And at some point, I decided I'd do this for a job. And after school ended and I graduated, I pretty much immediately got an internship with a local developer and started working in the industry.
That was already back in Hamburg, or
No,
what was that?
I'm from Hanover.
Okay.
It's about 100 kilometers to the south of Hamburg, so still pretty local, northern boy.
And how long did you stay there? How long did you work there?
For about half a year, I believe, was my internship. And after that, I actually didn't immediately continue doing concept art. I started studying at what's the translation for Fachhochschule? Is that like is that vocational college or something like that?
I don't really know. It's like
it's not university. It's a little bit more practically oriented, I guess. Anyways, the what I studied was a bachelor's degree in illustration for a good 4 years, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I graduated and then continued doing work as an illustrator, not an illustrator, a concept artist for various games companies here in Germany, and some freelance work for international companies.
All right.
That's it. That's my life.
That's nice. Yeah. So
we are today.
how, like, when you started studying, like, maybe you can tell the people out there, some of the people who want to get into the industry, or are just thinking about to go into this direction, and to become an illustrator or a concept artist, or whatever. Like, how was it for you? Did you focus already in a specific kind of area where you decided back then already, okay, I'll become like a concept artist for characters or environments? Because if I look at your portfolio and your artworks, you are very skilled in doing characters as well. And what I really like about your artworks is that there's always a narrative behind that. Like, storytelling is strong in your pieces, which I really like, actually. And I've seen that you're a good artist, not only when it comes to environments, but also characters. So how did it start for you? Like, how did you decided to go a certain direction?
Well, Yeah. It's a kind of like it's an organic process, right? You kind of discover what you're most interested in with time, and there's certain areas that I did focus on because I just never really found an interest or like projects that interested me where I invested time in, like creature design, for example. I just have almost nothing on that front. Uh, Instead, I did a lot of work for projects that had characters as the focus and that interested me because, as you noticed, the narrative stuff, yeah, that's definitely one of my areas where I'm personally most interested in. It's just something that gives the spice of life to doing art for me when I can tell a little bit of a story with my drawings or with my paintings or concept art, of course, but usually there's a bit less of that in just pure production art. And I don't think there's like a specific point in my life where I decided on a focus. It's more that I accumulated most of that stuff that I was interested in, and it kind of became my focus because obviously probably people are not going to hire me for being a creature designer because I basically have nothing of that in my portfolio. So it just happens sometimes in work environments where that's just a task that gets assigned to you. Although that in the projects I've worked on has not been the case. There just haven't been many creatures.
But like, because you are so good in character art as well, like, were you starting with character studies and studying anatomy and stuff first, and then you got into also environments, and you put both things into context, like where you saw, okay, I like also telling stories, and I want to showcase that. Well, like mostly it's the case when you're a concept artist, you focus on one thing. And let's say you're an environment concept artist or character concept artist, and well, there are people out there who can be good in both, but mostly the people who are very on a high level in a certain field, they only do this. They only focus on one thing.
I would say that I did start with character stuff when I started art, basically, and had like an anatomy book. It's called Die menschliche Form by a guy named Bammes.
Okay, it's a German book, or?
It's a German book, yeah.
Okay.
It's a very detailed anatomical book for artists. I'm not even sure if that's a name anymore. I think I have it around here somewhere. It's called Die Gestalt des Menschen, the form of the human.
Okay.
And it's very detailed, and I started with that when I was becoming a bit more serious about art and doing studies and stuff from that. And some of the environmental stuff was also what I started out with when I got into digital art. So yes, I'd say those two are like the foundation of what I do now as well. If I had started with more creature design stuff or maybe more sculpture and stuff, that could have changed my trajectory maybe. But it's I don't have any proof for that. Maybe I did go into this direction because this is what I was meant to do, right? Maybe creature design wasn't for me or wouldn't have been for me. Who knows? Can't really prove it either way.
Okay. So what kind of advice would you give somebody? Do you think like when somebody starts as a concept artist, he should like focus on one field? Like from my point of view, that's what I always thought, that especially when you start as a student or something, that you focus on one field and then you try to focus on just that and become very strong in this field. Would you say somebody who starts should just do anatomy and like study and to become a good character artist? Or would you also, say, okay, it's your decision, you could also do environments at the same time?
I feel like that's like a question about setting your goals right. I don't think there's a one-fits-all answer to this, especially since the field itself is very task-focused, right? I'd say if there's like a desire for yourself to become a character designer or a landscape artist or a creature designer, environment artist, sorry. Of course, you should focus your studies on that. Not necessarily that you should neglect other areas, because there's always like a cross-pollination aspect, right? If you learn from different fields, that will increase your proficiency in your chosen mastery as well. I personally think so, at least, that there's like a overlap of ideas and concepts and techniques to apply. But if, for example, you don't really have something that really pushes you from like a personal preference level into a field where you like, I just want to be a concept artist, I want to work with games, then maybe the goal should be more to find your opportunity where you can apply your skills and focus that way. Because let's say you live in Canada, for example, and have a specific goal to work with Ubisoft.
Well, that's what I tried, and somehow it worked out for me. But it's not always the case, right? Like, but
I didn't chose that for that example for no reason, right? It's sensible to realize your goals and how you can achieve them, and tailor your approach that way.
Yeah, that's
kind
exactly
of a technical approach to it. Of course, I personally didn't do this. I just did what I thought was interesting at the time, and it worked out for me. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the perfect approach, but that's why I'm saying it's so varied, right? And you kind of got to do some self-reflection if you want to like straight ahead find a goal that you want to achieve.
Right. Yeah, like from my opinion, it's really that you should try to focus on just one thing first, and to get this right, and then you, as you said, you should tailor your portfolio around one studio or one field also, and that you want to work on. Or I mean, it depends what you really want. So for me, I can just tell from my experience that before I started working for Ubisoft, I knew already I wanted to get there, and I knew my core skill is environment somehow. I didn't focus much on characters, even though I brought them in as well. But majority of all my work was definitely environment art. And I looked at games or IPs that were made by Ubisoft, and then I tried to tailor my portfolio around that kind of studio. And I gotta say, like, I can pull off character art as well, but I'm not as good in character art as in environment art. And also prop design, I love doing props. Like, concept design in general is something that interests me a lot, and but I wouldn't say I'm like the best prop artist out there, you know, like
that would be a bold claim anyways.
No, but like, yeah, like, of course not, but even
sorry, some connection issues.
On my side it's good, there's no issue.
I think we're back.
On my side everything was good. So yeah, I don't know, it's like of course if you're into sports and you become an athlete, you will focus just on one thing, one sports. If you run a marathon, like, then you probably try to run as long as you can, long distances, and you would not end up you would not train as somebody who is sprinting, running a short distance, right? So the approach is different. Like
I think you're right, but I guess you have to differentiate maybe between starting out as an artist,
yes,
then transitions into concept art, and just talking about starting as a concept artist on the concept artist journey, because at that point you probably already have a basis in art and have a certain foundational experience and can draw from that. But if you start out like at zero and just say, I want to be an artist, I want to be a concept artist, and of course you can probably do the same thing where you focus on one area and neglect all others, but that probably gives you some shortcomings in the end, especially as an artist who just starts out, like, and maybe just has this as a goal. I want to be an artist who maybe goes into concept art. You don't maybe even know yet what your true passion is going to be like. Maybe you're going to be another artist rather than a concept artist, maybe like a sculptor or someone who does like free art. I don't know what's freie Kunst. What's the name? Like
I don't know.
Just the traditional image of an artist who does potentially like gallery work, a gallery artist.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't. It's really hard for an artist, I think, or someone who starts out in art, to like project his future path and be like, I'm gonna do that, of course. Like if you start out and want to become some kind of like a tradesman, you want to be a plumber or something. It's probably pretty easy to imagine what your future is gonna be like, but I feel like for an artist, it's really hard to get a solid image of what is your future gonna look like if you go into art. That's why I think like starting out as an artist, it's good to get a broader perspective, because maybe you just hadn't considered something that really brings you joy and that you find fulfills you as an artist.
I get that. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's true. Like I think I agree with this, especially when you start out. When it comes to your work, your personal work, I saw you have your personal project that you started back then, and can you talk about more about that? Like what was the thought behind that?
Sure.
The world in general, because that's quite interesting, because it's about world building and kind of creating your own universe. How did you approach that?
Well, so for everybody who doesn't know, I have a personal project for a few years now. It's called Celsius 13, and it's in general, it's just as you said, it started out as a world design setting that I personally wanted to use to focus my personal work, because I at the time had the impression that I was just doing random artwork in my personal time where I wasn't working in a job or something, and I wanted to improve my stuff or do certain things, but it was all unthemed. Like it just was a jumble, and I felt that maybe if I set it all in a world setting that I created myself, I could give it cohesion and give it like an overarching theme and maybe even a narrative. And so I started just sketching and creating artworks that I just labeled in that way, and gave it, as I said, a theming, which is kind of like a colony planet that at some point was in the distant past was abandoned from Earth, or like lost connection to Earth, and developed from that point on by itself, and kind of comes to a point where it's like a very sprawling, industrialized colony that
it feels a bit like diesel punk or something. Is it something you were going for?
It's similar, like well, since it's a colony planet, of course it doesn't have any fossil fuels. So diesel punk, of course, doesn't really apply, but it is in the similar vein where it like is a lot of its design aspects are like taken from older vehicular design, and it kind of looks run down and stuff, and lots of slums and things like that.
Yeah, I like that. It looks kind of inspired somehow by diesel punk. Like you see engines, you see steam, and a lot of like technology or parts that are kind of exposed sometimes. Mechanical stuff that I've seen, and it reminded me a bit of diesel punk. So I was not sure about that 100%.
Yeah, I got it's kind of like an impression that kind of automatically generates itself, because it's very inspired by media I personally love a lot, which is stuff like Ghost in the Shell, Akira, in similar works of art and media. And but when to take out like the very electronically focused aspect of it, or like push that to like the richer, almost central parts of the colony, and focus a lot on the outer rims, it kind of seems like it becomes a diesel punk setting or a steampunk setting by itself.
Yeah, a bit. I was thinking that, but it's cool. It's unique. Like you would not say, "Oh yeah, this looks like," everybody knows Midgar from Final Fantasy, and this is pretty diesel punk heavy. So you wouldn't say, "Yeah, this looks like Midgard or something I have seen before." I feel like what you've done there with your project looks very unique. Sorry?
I avoid like huge gears and gigantic steam boilers and stuff currently. Or like monocles. I try to avoid monocles.
Oh, it's really cool.
Thank you.
We talked about some things before, and I know you were also working on your personal stuff, and there were some plans about another project that you started. Is it linked to Celsius, or is this like a unique kind of project? Can you talk about that a bit more? And yeah.
It's still secret, so nobody tell anybody. But I'm working on a comic in that universe. So at some point I decided that I really want to do a comic. I want to do like a full narrative.
Is this why you were going for also this line art kind of approach on your stream and the recent things you've done, or?
No, that's just what I like.
Preference, okay.
That's what I like to do, and that's probably also why I want to do a comic. I just want to have like something that I created that has a little bit more substance, right? So I felt like for a while now that that if I just do designs, that's cool, and they work and they can be appreciated, but what I was missing was like the feeling I get from when I read comics, or when I read a story, or when I read like books, that you can kind of invest yourself in characters that are living in that world. And I don't think I have that yet in what I do. And I want to have that though. I want to, if people know about this comic or about my world, that they imagine a character from that world that they like. I wish for something like that. And since that's one of my goals, I'm trying to do that right now, but it's really fucking hard. And I've taken a long time already and haven't finished it even close yet. It's so much work.
It's just you, right? Like you had just to think, and you had to start and think about storyboard. I think you start with storyboards and the first frames, and then later on you finalize each frame one after another. Like, how long does it take to do just one page, roughly? Like, for a comic?
I can't tell you yet because I haven't finished one yet. Like, No, I'm serious. It's I work on this, and at some point I decide the style doesn't work, and then I have to work over it again.
Oh,
I
that
can't even
sucks.
tell you how long I take for a page because it's impossible right now for
So
me to
it's still kind
tell.
of like a finding phase where you're looking for what you actually want. You're still changing your mind sometimes, or
Yes,
it's
I,
okay.
I it's a mess.
Because what
It's
I've seen, what you've done, you showed me some examples, and I was blown away, man. That looks to me quite awesome already, and I was like, man,
why, thank you.
if I would have the time to pull this off, maybe I would give it a try. But I'm not
I don't
that
think.
I'm not that good
Yeah.
in character art as you are. Like you need to be, you know, better than I am in this. I
I
could draw your backgrounds though, if you want to.
Nice. Backgrounds are actually pretty hard in line work, I feel. I'm not a master in background art like
Yeah,
they are in Akira. It's like great. Oh my god, these backgrounds. It's ridiculous.
yeah, this is insane.
Anyways,
I mean, this
what I want to
probably
say
takes
is,
forever.
yeah, I mean, I probably take longer than he and his assistants do, just because I fuck up too much and have to redo stuff. But like the finding a style and like working on it so much, even though other people are already like, oh, this looks awesome. It's like an endemic problem for artists. I feel like you have your own eye for things
Yeah.
and your own quality expectations, and somehow you just can't fulfill those. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think this is like a blessing, but also a curse that you, as an artist, you never feel 100% satisfied with your art, or you're satisfied first, and then the next couple of days it turns into this. Ah, maybe I could have changed this or that. Like, I think it's good to force yourself and to become a better artist, and try as hard as you can. And this whole drive that you have is helping you to become better. But at the same time, it's like you sometimes you never feel like you accomplished something, or because you're not happy with something. And I think this is what you're going through right now as well. Like that you do it, in my opinion, that's great. But you think, oh man, I could have done that way better, or I should change this and that. And I would have the question to you, like, do you set yourself a schedule to say, okay, I take 1 week for this, and when I'm done with it, I don't go back, I don't retouch it or something?
I guess I would do this once I figure out like the exact style I'm going for, because I can work on a schedule. I promise I can. It's just right now it doesn't work like that, because I'm still so much in an exploratory phase that even if I did say I'll just make a cut, and whatever style I have now I will use. Just from the perspective of the mindset I went into when I started working on this comic, it would be not the right choice, because I specifically went into this to make something that lives up to my own expectations and my own goals. I didn't go into this to produce something in a certain amount of time that is then like a product that is finished. I don't even expect to be finished in like a year. It's kind of it's not ideal, but on the other hand, I don't want to start out the journey of making comics necessarily by pigeonholing me into a style that I have to keep for like a series of comics if I want to make one that doesn't satisfy me. I have to find the right thing that I want to do, because if I don't, then why not just keep being a concept artist? Or like, I'm not even sure I want to give that up at all. But why way do comics if I don't find it fun to make them. I have to find something that I'm satisfied with first, and use that as a seeding point to work out the rest of the comic. Obviously, this is a little bit more a gradual thing. So I have work that I'm pretty satisfied with already. I got some pages that I think, all right, that's good stuff. But since I'm a bit inexperienced yet in comic making, applying this to the rest of the comic isn't that easy, because different scenarios, of course, have different things that you have to focus on. And I constantly, through self-reflection and thinking about what exactly I'm missing from what I'm doing, I find new things that I should do better and include in my art. And that will make something out of this that I can truly be proud of.
Gotcha.
Because comic is such a visual medium that just thinking about it as like a vehicle to like convey the narrative is not enough for me personally. At that point, I could just like write a book.
Just write a book.
Like that's maybe sounds
so easy.
Stupid, but no, of course that would be hard as well. But like a book is the narrative, right?
Yes.
But the comic has like another interconnected layer of the visual representation that can still tell its own narrative and like enhance the narrative that's just part of the story. Like it's like so many interconnected parts that create a thing that is more than the sum of its parts. Let's just say that cliched line and hope that conveys what I mean.
That's yeah. No, I get that. It's right. It sounds quite horrible actually. For me, it sounds it's very ambitious, definitely, and
it's way too ambitious. I'm an idiot. Say it outright.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about narrative, but also to convey the narrative into art is definitely on another level. Like, but I mean, every if you look at the comic artists out there who started as comic artists, the way how they started was mostly they were just drawing comics on their own. Like McFarlane, who came out with Spawn later on, before he worked at Marvel, he was just redrawing those heroes, the way how he imagined them, right? And from there on, later on, when he left Marvel with a bunch of other comic artists, he decided to do his own thing. And of course they had to come up with stories, right? And and of course you cannot do all at once perfectly in the beginning. This takes a while. And
that's not even what I'm saying though.
No, he like just there are different challenges you have to face when you do comic, right? What I just wanted to say is like he was already on a good level when it comes to drawing those comic strips, the frames and everything, and he was very confident in this, but it doesn't mean that he was that strong in narrative and storytelling probably, but still he had to start somewhere and he pulled it off.
Yeah, it's I'm actually I don't expect to be like to make something that is perfect, because that's like a fool's errand. I just want to get to a point where I'm satisfied, but that's hard enough already, and maybe foolish too.
Yeah.
I probably won't be satisfied with everything, because there's just so much, and so much that I haven't done before, so I can't expect to become like a master at it.
No,
just
but
by
this is
doing
how
it
you
one
grow
time.
and become better in all these different steps and challenges. And let's see how it turns out. I'm very excited actually. I cannot wait till the point when you will show something. I think I'm not sure if you can talk about that, but yeah. Or is there still a plan to join to start it on Kickstarter, or
I
what's
like
your approach there?
the way to publish it is probably not Kickstarter, because as far as I heard, it's very involved to start something like that on Kickstarter unless you go for just a digital release. But I do want a physical release.
Okay.
Depending on what I choose to go for in like a publishing way, I'll see how to do which route to go, because there's a few options. But to be honest, I'm not at the stage yet where I can decide that, because I don't even know yet when it's going to be finished.
Yes.
Maybe once I know more about when I got something, that's going to be sensible. And currently I have a introductory part as well that I'm working on, which is probably going to be the first thing that's finished, like kind of like an experimental thing where I test the waters with it, and that I might release for free to get like to whet some appetite, you know. See if that's something that interests people, and if they like what they see. I might figure more what I want to do in like a monetization way. It could be just a PDF that I sell over Kickstarter or maybe Patreon or similar things. What I don't want to do is just release like a page a day or something. I personally, I don't have a comic planned out that works that way. I don't think that would be very good for the reading flow.
But Kickstarter would make sense, right? If you are thinking of publishing it, printing it in a physical way. I was saying, I think Kickstarter would make sense though, if, as you just said, like if you're thinking about publishing it, printing it, to like publish it physically, like
I guess if you want to invest the time, like the thing with Kickstarter is if you don't have someone who takes care of like the details, you have to find the printing method.
Yes, but you would
do the shipping.
Yes, of course, but you would have the money. You could pay up front from that money to make somebody print it, right? If not, then it would be your own money that you need to come up with, right?
Yeah, but there's like
that's hard.
There's like an exponential amount of work that translates into spent money as well. Like your time is valuable in the same sense that the work you put out is valuable. If I spend multiple months trying to get the logistics done, that is also something that should be calculated for. And I personally don't think I want to handle that kind of stress. I'd rather have the stress enough in like making the comic itself, and hoisting off the publishing part is on somebody else, unless it's just digital, in which case I just have to do some tax stuff probably. And
so you would approach publishers and would ask for if they're interested in that to publish it, or
potentially.
Okay, so you don't have to ask for money or come up with your own money to do it, and approach printing, whatever, like a printer or something.
There's some solutions that are like a mixture of both. For example, there's a crowdfunding publisher that I heard of, which is called Spaceman Project, I believe. Something like that.
Never heard about that.
I believe they are from Spain, and they do like a crowdfunding variation of publishing where they put like comics up crowdfunding, and they if they pick up projects when they get funded, or if they add like their own money in to finish the funding, and they do like translation and everything by themselves and do the publishing stuff, while the artist gets paid through the crowdfunding, I believe. I'm not sure on the exact details, but that's an option you can do as well, in contrast to like traditional publishing, where you go to a publisher and they take over the rights and stuff for the comic. And
Okay.
I don't exactly, to be honest, I'm not an expert, and I hope to have as little trouble with that aspect of the whole thing as possible, because I'm really bad with paperwork and I just don't want the stress.
No, I can imagine that. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff to consider, but if you have to take care of the publishing, the printing, all the logistics, then you would go nuts. There would be not much time anymore to do art. I think you will sit in your basement and make those, pack the comics into packages and go to the post office.
You have to rent your own warehouse first, because are you gonna stack some pallets of printed comics? Like
I've seen that
in your own house.
No, seriously, I've seen people having their full apartment stack, like full of stuff that they are selling.
I don't have the space for that.
And you don't. Well, you don't have to. If you are not having a family, you have to convince your wife. That might be easier, if you just put it somewhere in a corner, if you get along with that. But there are people out there that are doing that. Trust me.
Well, I'm not married, so I guess I got that.
So you don't have to rent storage space somewhere. No, but it's pretty interesting.
I have a kitchen that's right next to my living room, so if I store my comics here, they're probably gonna smell like grease or something at some point when I don't get the shipping done in time.
Yeah.
Sounds terrible.
That would be not so nice for your customers. They open the box and it smells like German fried potatoes or something. Just
Leberwurst brot in your packaging. So there's actually one more thing that is a problem with Kickstarter, and that's chargebacks, where you get put all the delivery stuff in, and then people it gets to people and it's like faulty, or like you get chargebacks because they cancel and stuff like this, where you can't really where you can't calculate for that, where you have to and you have to pay that out of pocket as well, because get your faulty stuff sent back to you. You have to pay the money back, but you still had to pay for the printing of it. So what do you do then? You have just faulty product lying around that you can't use. Maybe the colors are printed wrong, and then you're fucked, because you lost a few €1,000 on faulty stuff.
The liability is definitely on your side, but I think there are a few workarounds. Like if you go to a printer, like to somebody who prints it for you, of course you make sure first that the stuff he delivers to you is correct, right? And I would do it locally, because if you do that abroad, let's say some people are doing stuff in China, and during the pandemic right now, it's it must be horrible. I got shipped something from China. It took forever to get it here in Canada. It was 3 months or something at least. I thought it will never come. Finally it did, but when something is wrong with this, and you wait already 3 months for the shipping, then there's an issue. Definitely, that could cause a lot of problems, right? So.
That's another thing that you want a publisher for. They take the liability for you.
Yeah, definitely less headaches than if you need to take care of all that. That's totally true. Yeah.
Yeah, or you do digital, right? Then you just have to worry about piracy or something.
Yeah, I agree with this, but I think if people have a connection to you and they know you, know your face, and maybe see your, the whole process and how you started this project. And there are clear links on those websites. Let's say it's social media and Kickstarter. They will always come back to you and try to buy your products on your website. Also, just for the matter of fact, to support you, right? If you have a strong link connection to your audience, I think mostly it still works out for you.
That's the hope, yeah.
And
that's one of the reasons I would like to do like this introductory thing, right? To maybe give that out for free, so that people actually, that it's not just thrown on the market with no fanfare or warning, so that I can build up maybe some momentum and see if that way I can get people interested in potentially helping me on Patreon if I ever set something like that up, or similar things.
Exactly.
Right? What you said, basically building a community.
Yeah. I think this is the best way, and I've heard about some people. I forgot the name. There was somebody. I think it's called Retro Supply or something. This guy.
I don't know that.
Yeah, this guy was making custom brushes. For us as concept artists, sounds ridiculous, but he made custom brushes for, I think it was Procreate. And there's a video, you can look it up on Google somewhere, where he talks about how much passive income he makes through those brushes that he's selling. And every time there's a new brush pack. So he features different artists. He creates new brushes with them together. Let's say like some watercolor brushes or whatever, and then they showcase an artwork of this that was made by those brushes, with those brushes, and then he puts it up there. And of course, it's not; those are brushes for software, right? It's not super expensive, but somehow it works, and it's digital.
It's actually pretty smart.
Yeah, well, you would never think about that, and because it sounds so. So like, hey, you make a lot of. Nobody would think you can make a lot of money with, like passive income with custom brushes and stuff. Whatever. So, and of course it's digital. So there is always the risk of piracy, that people will spread your stuff somewhere on torrent websites and so on. And he said, well, in my own words. Actually, you should embrace that, because in the end, it's free marketing. It's promotion for free. Every time when he had a brush pack, he would put in like a text file, still with all his social media links, his names, his website, and all that. So even when people got it from somewhere else, they always are, referred back to his website and his social media and everything. And well, if people are interested, of course they will subscribe to his newsletter on his website. He can have more follows through this as well, if people are just interested in the final products that he's posting, like that other artists made, other artworks. I think this is still something kind of helpful in a way, if you use it this way. I'm not saying it's like perfect. Of course, you lose money with this, but you cannot protect yourself from that. Yeah.
I bet though it might feel different for a while if you if you notice that it's happening, but then you just have to get used to it. I can't speak to it because I never released anything that in that way, like in a publishing way, that I could talk about how it works. But I believe people when they say that it's like a way for you to get out into the world and get your community growing by maybe even people who haven't bought your stuff but still spread it, and it's still like a net positive for you.
Yeah. There's one thing I wanted to ask you, like, because we have your pre-recorded painting in the background that we see all the time. It's a time lapse, so it's not in real time, of course. You can see that. How did you start with this? What's your usual, like, before you started painting, before you start drawing anything, what is the first thing you do? Like, for that one in particular, for instance, maybe you can use that as an example. What were your thoughts? Did you do research?
So what I did was I did a little bit of an idea brainstorm, like not even like written down or anything, just taking a little bit of time thinking about what I would like to do for a stream or like a demonstration, and what I can do right now that is fun to me, that I can do in a certain amount of time, because I didn't, of course, want to do like something that took me 15 hours or something. This in particular took me 3 hours, and it's sped up to 1 hour now. And I put down some sketches on like post-it notes when I had an idea for what I could draw. There were some different ideas for this one in particular, like different angles for how I wanted to do it. And I just at some point I had the idea, all right, let's do like maybe like a something like a family around a dinner table with some interesting objects that could draw on the table, and some interesting clothing where I can put in some stuff that's like not necessarily like current fashion.
Yeah.
And,
did you think about storytelling? Like, was
bit.
there a story you wanted to convey?
Yeah, so it's like not a big story or anything, but like I imagine like what the characters might be doing. For example, the kid on the ground obviously ate way too much and is like stuffed full. And just it's like in a food coma, and the person on the right would be the mother. She's like fixing herself up for work maybe, and the daughter is like dawdling, has to go to school maybe later, and it's still like munching around, and the mother's getting annoyed, so she's like giving her the side eye, right? She's like, fuck, get ready to eat your bowl of weird beans.
That's my life. That's actually.
Oh, see, right?
It's like, you don't have kids. How do you know about these things?
I mean, that's an interesting point, right? I feel like that comes with trying to put yourself in the shoes of the characters you're creating.
Interesting.
Because obviously obviously other people may not know this, but I'm not a father, and I don't know, except for my own experience as a kid or like other media, what that would be like. But I can imagine problems arising.
Yes.
I can imagine what it might be like, and I also obviously let other people interpret their own things into the drawing. I'm not writing out a paragraph as an explanation to the next to it, but obviously maybe you can tell me if that's also the impression you got when you saw the drawing, and or maybe there was a difference, but
no, like
that's part of it, right?
Yeah, I think this makes it so interesting, right? If you can see a scene, a character, or something, that happens there that you can relate to, and that you experienced yourself. So, and that draws your attention. I think this is why it's so strong sometimes when I see your art, because I feel there is also emotion involved. This is more funny. Just seeing the facial expression of that character left to the mother. But also there is one piece, for instance, you've painted, I think it's with this girl and there's a man with a robot arm or something.
Yeah.
And
the farmer with the daughter.
Yeah, people can like look it up. I think it's on ArtStation, right?
Yeah.
So
it's, most of my stuff that I want people to see is on ArtStation. The rest is expunged.
No, but this is something that when I saw it first time, that evoked some feelings. Like, that's something where I felt kind of sad looking at it, and I think this is very strong because of that. Like when you can convey emotions or feelings, evoke certain feelings, that's so powerful. And with this one, yeah, I could not see it 100%. Like I saw, okay, maybe she's wasted, or ate too much or something. I was not 100% sure. For me, yeah, but for me it was like they get together, they hang around after work maybe, and get ready for the evening just to chill out. That's what I thought when I looked at it. But
that's
just
fine too.
It looks cozy. So it looks like, when I look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, I could see myself sitting there eating something. I don't know if there are ramen on the table or something, but just thinking about the arrangement of things that are there, and even though it's line art, there's no mood through lighting or color. I could see, yeah, for me it's like something where I can see myself being in the scene and sit there enjoying time eating with others.
Yeah, I personally, I really like setting the scene, right? And what you said, like creating like a possibility for like an emotional connection. And maybe that's why I don't draw so many action scenes and stuff. Sometimes I do like to do that, but it's maybe even harder for me because I'm more used to drawing scenes where I can create things like this character does something subtle, and it creates like a connection with someone. Because I personally would find it a bit harder to do like an artwork with like all action and still create that pathway for a viewer to enter this narrative and like kind of put themselves into the shoes of others.
Yes.
Obviously, that's still possible. I would have to think a bit harder though about doing that, and maybe just a little bit of brainstorming wouldn't be enough to do that. But I feel like it's not that big of an effort for me currently to just to imagine like scenes like this. It comes like a little bit more natural to me. It's I don't have to like think some deep thoughts about the human condition to get to a point like this, which is fine for me because I like jumping right into the drawing after I got the sketch. And if I were to do an action scene that has like that kind of quality, or the expectation to reach that quality, I'd have to invest a lot more and probably pull out some tricks to make that happen.
No, it's I had to think about something where, those books where there's an open ending, and because of that fact, you keep thinking about, oh, how does it end? And that kind of book stays in your mind, this narrative, this story, because of that, because of the fact it's an open ending, and you try to end it in your own mind. You try to think, oh yeah, what could have happened, and the authors, they do it sometimes on purpose, just to to leave this open question. I was thinking about that a bit, when you leave a bit of room. So when you show the action, like let's say there's no anticipation anymore before an action, you just draw the action, something that happens, like I don't know, there's an airplane crashing down into a field, and then you see it crashing down. I think Craig Mullins said it once, that he mostly picks one scene where he shows the scenery before the action or afterwards. So if you draw it before, what I was thinking is like, yeah, that makes sense, because you anticipate something. There's some storytelling or tension between characters, or if it could be anything. A scene where somebody's preparing that plane to crash down, or pulling a gun towards somebody's head, like the pilot or something, which would be quite intense. And from there, you decide which kind of perspective you use, composition, and so on. How you want to show that scene, and this is the same thing that you do with this book, right? Like with this open ending, you think, oh, what will happen if he shoots when he's doing this or that, this character, or when it's afterwards, after the action, like you think, oh, what happened here? Like,
yeah, you want the viewer to like kind of finish the narrative by themselves, because that gets them invested into the painting.
True.
If you just draw the explosion, they maybe finish the explosion, but maybe they don't ask about the other circumstances. That's
exactly.
True.
Yeah.
So maybe you draw the farmer tending to his cows and not noticing the plane. And then there's like something to that obviously, like the it's kind of like, it's similar to how comics work, right? Because you have like gaps between panels where there's no artwork, there's just two panels that display two different things, and the rest that happens between.
In between, yeah, true.
The viewer has to supply themselves, so they get invested.
True.
They create the characters and stuff in their own mind as well.
Yeah, I think this is very powerful. And well, if you just do environment art, that's something that you can introduce that in your art. Like, if you can, well, of course, that's way better. I always try to put in some storytelling elements or something. But sometimes, as we know in the industry, the brief is just, hey, there's this guy, he lives in this house. Can you draw it in this environment? And then you try to match the building to this character, maybe. You try to fit the mood, maybe the weather as well, to the scene, and the feelings. But it's a bit different if you do it like, I think, because sometimes it could be just a task for doing an environment, and there's not much opportunity to bring in some storytelling or narrative.
That's
the characters is, I feel it's different.
I find that interesting in particular because for games specifically, your work in environment art kind of completes the picture only once it's translated into the game, and then it becomes like kind of like a multimedia artwork, right? Because your work gets translated into the game, and the game has level design and characters in it that interact with the landscape, and maybe even have dialogue about the landscape and tell you something about it. And your artwork for the environment is part of this whole quilt of different professions that create a combined artwork.
True.
I find that actually pretty interesting, that for games specifically, that where all these parts start to work together to like a combined experience.
No, that's true. Yeah. Oh, that's for sure.
You create like the fertile soil for all this to happen, because if your environment doesn't work that you designed for what the game is going to be later, there's going to be an incongruity and the player might notice. So it's like a multi-person artwork where everybody has to work together to create this story that one artist could maybe do in a piece where there's characters already in it.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's just way easier to do these things with characters in place. That's actually I think what I try to share or to say in my own opinion. Sometimes it was like that where you just were asked to draw a building in an environment or something, and maybe the brief is also not giving much of narrative or storytelling you can introduce. But if you have characters and they're interacting with each other, I feel that it's a bit different than if you try to do that with environments. And of course, like what I try to use to convey a feeling or a mood or something are of course lighting and colors and all that. And that's something you can also pull off, which I've seen, which is kind of impressive, because that makes it so strong. I think that you can draw interaction with characters in a scenery, in an environment, and you also draw it in color with strong lighting, and all these skills combined are making your artwork so strong.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's I'm glad I can evoke those emotions in viewers, because that's like kind of what makes it all worth it, right?
Yeah, it's truly inspiring. Like sometimes you look at somebody others' work and it just wants to make you draw something or inspires you to do your own thing, and this is why it's so it's so cool. Like sometimes you just want to, of course we're living, like we're all human beings living our own life and stuff, but we share all this passion about art, being creative, and sometimes it's just kind of cool to escape into those worlds. Like that's at least what I always liked when I was playing games or watching movies or something, that there were people out there who were creating all these universes, characters, and stories, and it's something that reminds me of my childhood, right? It's like watching all these movies or playing certain games, and then you think like, hey, like I want to do something like this as well. I want to create my own characters, environments, or tell my own story, right?
Yeah, it's always very nice to hear, and makes me very happy when I hear that someone like feels inspired by seeing my artwork, because that's like the feeling I get when I look at other people's artwork. I always get that inspiration from just to do something. Exactly what you said, like that feeling like, oh, that's so cool. I want to do something as well. That spark. That's really awesome to hear when someone gets that from your stuff as well.
Exactly. We're almost at the end. There's just one thing I wanted to ask you, like, if you would be a student, or if you could give some advice to artists out there who are just starting to become a concept artist, illustrator, whatever, what kind of advice would you give them? Like, is there any kind of wisdom you would like to share, or something you would have told yourself, back then when you started out, something you've learned over the years?
Yeah, I think like the most important thing that I learned while working as a concept artist is that you're always part of a team, and that it's never like solitary work, that you never work just for your own ideas, and that your own ideas aren't necessarily the end all be all, or that your ideas are the most important. And it's that like communication is your goal, that you create the pathway for everybody to be able to work together, and always keeping that in the back of your mind when you get frustrated, when like communication starts to break down, or if you get frustrated by your tasks and stuff. I feel like keeping in mind that the artwork itself isn't the end goal. That the end goal is always that someone else can work with it later and create something that gets put into the game. And I feel sometimes that I should have known that earlier, and I came at work sometimes when I was starting out more as like an illustrator than as a concept artist. And that switch at some point happened specifically because I also got like some harsh words from a superior about like my conduct when I received feedback and stuff. And at that point it kind of clicked. And of course that's not like easy, but I feel that you should always keep it in mind that that's one of the most important aspects of a concept artist, that they can visualize other people's ideas, and that they can be like the
tool,
the grease in the wheels, right?
Yeah. No, that's
you can make it all work for everybody to be able to translate ideas, right? Imagine if there were no concept artists and people had to just write their ideas down, and everybody is like, oh, what you said, that it's like a hat that looks like a melon, but now it looks like an orange. What?
It's horrible if you get to talk to people who just are able to explain their thoughts with words, and then you try to translate that, but in everybody's mind that thing that he was talking about looks so different. But at the same time it's so fulfilling then if you drew actually exactly that what they were asking you for, and it looks exactly how they imagined it. But yeah, you're totally right, like you become this tool or translator of the game designer, or the person who briefs you to do to create something. Yeah, that's true. Nice. I think
visualization and all that.
I think we can wrap it up. Was really nice to have you here. Really glad you made it.
It's nice to be invited here.
My first guest.
Thank you for interviewing me.
Thanks a lot for joining me. Hope we talk next time again, and maybe you can be another time my guest.
Yeah, no problem. Of course, I love it.
Yeah, would be cool. So thanks for joining me.